All right. Hey, we're live. It is May 23rd, and I'm going to have to make an adjustment to my lighting behind me in a moment. But hey, I'm pretty happy about today. We had some interesting action since last week. We've got lots of things to talk about. There's action happening right now. Is this Ethereum thing all gets sorted out? But we'll get into that in a minute. Richard, what do you got going on your side? Anything interesting this week?
No, I think the cause for all the volatility is the impending announcement that ETH ETFs are going to be a thing. I think. Lost your video. Okay. Just apologies for Shane. He's just caught a nosebleed just before the episode, so he might have to disappear now and again. So the latest news we've seen is that Ethereum ETFs are expected to be approved within hours. I don't know what that means really in terms of the price of ETH. I mean, ETH is a little more esoteric than Bitcoin. Fewer people know about ETH than Bitcoin, I think. Even though for us in the crypto industry, it's kind of the be all and end all. I think the majority of Main Street wonder what the hell it's all about. So I don't know what the take up will be.
It's interesting. We're seeing a bit of action. We're seeing ETH rise up a bit, Bitcoin following suit. But let's get into that in a bit. And again, as Richard mentioned, I've had this horrible nosebleed the last 30 minutes, so I might every now and then go off the camera and shove something up my nose. Or maybe I'll just leave it up my nose, and it'll be a more entertaining episode for everyone.
Like a Spike Milligan. That's probably a blast from the past for you.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty worldly in terms of popular cultural history. Did you know Bonnie and Clyde, right?
I'm aware.
Famous. Okay.
Yeah.
They were shot dead, May 23rd.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And one of my favorite movies came out, The Shining. Did you ever see The Shining? That show freaked me out so much as a kid. I tell you, I still think about it every now and then. It was brilliant. It was an absolute brilliant show.
I read the book before it was cool.
Of course you did. All right. Hey, so what's the topic today? Well, we're going to talk about this synth miner account. The one we started 12 weeks ago, specifically for Deribit live audience, and we wanted to basically just try and accumulate Bitcoin without mining it. So we had a synthetic miner, so we're going to use options to do that. And we're up over 25%. It was about a 5K account. So I think we're pretty damn happy with that. We had one blooper. We kind of, hindsight, we made an error on a trade, and we're clawing that back. But overall, we're still kicking butt. I think we're really quite happy with it. And actually, let me go to. We got some stats here, and we can see it was 12 weeks ago. We started that to the day. We started off at 0.0825 of a Bitcoin, and we are up now. It's 0.1068. A little bit up from last week, and our equity is up a little bit from last week. And the Bitcoin we mined is 0.0208 of a Bitcoin, and a 25% increase approximately from the start. I think we were a little bit higher earlier, but they came back down a bit. But the market goes up, the market goes down.
Well, so I think we got caught out when we covered. We got concerned about the downside, didn't we? Which seems like a laugh now, given that Bitcoin's rallied since. Yeah. And so we covered a little bit close to the money. In slightly too low vol.
Yeah, and what happened was we had sold puts when the market dipped down to like 58, 57, around there. We ended up thinking, oh boy, okay, this sucks. We need to sort of protect this position, offset. And
let's be honest. You were about
me. You can't blame this all on me. Okay, fine. I'll take the hit for it.
You're all like, oh yeah, but if it breaks from here, it's going to go down to 50, and then maybe 45, and then you scared me, and so I agreed to roll the positions.
Yeah. Okay. It was peer pressure, is what you're saying. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I pressured you. Good thing I'm not trying to convince you to smoke or something. Cool. Come on, everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
All right. So, we did do that, and then we got caught, of course, when it went straight up. And so we put on a 5-week plan. I think we're into week 3 of the 5-week plan to recover all that cash. That's been going quite well. And we're going to go through that account in a minute. But I think we're quite happy because if we annualize the returns, we're still up over 300%. As you can
see. Do we have the graphs on your presentation?
Yeah, actually, let me just go to the next slide. So up 300% versus being up 46% if you were just hodling.
That's annualized, right? In dollars.
Annualized, yes, indeed. indeed. So here, let me just, if I go here, I'll make our thing a little bit smaller there. Here's the graph. This is the annualized return in Bitcoin. You can see we're doing quite nice. Again, the red line is always going to be flat because it's just hodling. We purchased Bitcoin at the exact same time versus a hodler, quite nice. And if we look at the US dollar return, got no complaints.
It's diverging quite nicely, isn't it, from just being a hodler?
Yeah,
you can see it kind of tracks being a hodler, but
yeah,
a little bit better.
Yeah. So I think we're both quite happy with that. Why don't I just jump over to the charts right now? We can talk a little bit about where we're at with Bitcoin, and actually we'll take a look at ETH too, because it's kind of the play of the day right now. So let me turn off the slides here. I was thinking of doing a poll today, but the poll just kind of seemed to, anything I could think of which was good was something we've already reflected on in the past. So I decided, we won't do a poll today. All right, let me see here. Share my screen. You should be able to see that. Yeah. Yep. It's funny. I left this red zig-zag line in because Richard and some people we talk with online on a channel asked me back here when we were kind of forming this ascending triangle, which is a bullish pattern if you're in a bull trend, and said, where's it going to go? And I thought, well, I expect it to kind of go up here, down here, down here. And I left that on. And then, I don't know, 8 hours later, the rumor came out that the ETH is going to be approved for spot by the SEC, or it has a higher chance of it. And kaboom, But so I'm still liking my graph. It's just a general rule of thumb. I was pretty happy with that. But we can see, ETH has actually pulled back just a little bit now, or Bitcoin's pulled back a little bit now.
So just to be clear, you're zigzagged up and down? Are you saying that the zigzag up has kind of happened a little bit early, and then you're still expecting it to come down a bit before it ticks off again, or are you
under natural circumstances? If ETH pulls it up, then sort of all bets are off. But I expected it to kind of come up, test up in this high area, pull back a little bit, and then make another attempt at it. I didn't expect it to break highs on the first move up, and that's how I would play the breakout. If I'm playing spot, I don't want to just, it's going and jump on. If you're in a hodl and it doesn't matter, that's fine. I want to wait for it to test once or twice, and then I'll jump on board when it looks like it wants to break. Typically, that's how I'll play that. Let's take a quick look at ETH. Crypto, let me type in ETH here, because that is the real fun guy, not a mushroom either. Well, here's the big move. There's the big move. There it is, right? We went up 20%. I mean, that's a monster move. And if we want to talk about what we've done today, because I saw just before we came on this call, I saw on the news feed in Deribit that Coin Telegraph was reporting that basically it was imminent that the I'm just actually looking for I can't find the news article right now, but it was imminent. So they expect that. So as we'd expect, people are starting to front run this ETH a little bit, jumping on board, Bitcoin moving up in sympathy with it. So I don't know. I think that this is an interesting thing to talk about. You are when we talked about this earlier, Richard, like earlier in the weekend, we first had that move up. You were kind of throwing your hands in the air saying, well, I don't know, does it really matter? Like, is it really going to drag Bitcoin that much? Do that many people play with ETH or trade ETH? Or who's going to buy an ETF with ETH? I don't have the answer to that. I'm not sure.
I think I'm probably eventually, much like the Bitcoin one, if enough CTAs advise their clients that they should be having a little bit in Bitcoin and a little bit in ETH, then arguably they will. But these things take a while, and it's not like my mum is desperate to be in ETH, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as if she's desperate to be in Bitcoin either, but she probably at least knows what Bitcoin is.
Yeah, and Bitcoin is viewed as the store of value. It's the digital gold, all that stuff. Whereas ETH, and I'm no crypto expert. I'm just a trader. Really, I see ETH as more of a utility. It's something that people are using on the blockchain. It's more of an everyday, like a functioning piece of the machinery versus Bitcoin's just there to hold value.
Yeah, I think if you're buying ETH, you're buying essentially stock in a ungoverned company with no governance and no rules and no law governing it. So, normally you'd say good luck with that and pass, wouldn't you? But I know these subjects get people very agitated either way. So I'll refrain from being controversial. I don't really have a view. I'm involved in a couple of projects that involve the Ethereum virtual machine, so I'm kind of a culprit too. But I do these things because I'm asked. Normally, not because I'm a huge believer. But I do kind of think that if ever there was a room for a new money system, now's not a bad time to be fighting for that spot.
Okay. We both stopped trading ETH heavily last year. It became a challenge. Now, I'm sure there's some people out there who trade it very, very well. And you'll find if anybody's traded for a period of time, there's certain stocks or commodities or currencies or whatever you happen to be trading that just jive with the way you trade. And ETH was really a bit of a rough ride for us. Where do we go from here? That's a good question. I mean, we're not even at all-time highs. I'm just going to go back. I realize I'm not sharing my screen at this moment, and actually maybe I will. I'll go back and I'll share this ETH, and probably people can also see blood coming out of my nose, but I'll just shove something up there. We're not at all-time highs. If this news is good and everybody expects ETFs to get on board and do the whole Bitcoin, version 2 again, why can't ETH be at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, or even higher by the end of the year or next year? I could totally see that, but it's a tough nut to trade, and I think the all-time high is around 4,100. 4,000. So I don't know. I don't really have. Sorry, I shouldn't say the all-time high. The recent high. My mistake. I was going to say the all-time high is up around 5K, just under 5K. I don't have a plan for ETH. I really don't have a plan for ETH. What I want to do with ETH is I just want to let it play itself out and see what happens. And from there, then I might jump in and take advantage of
what I can tell you is that I think you can get 200 vol on ETH overnight right now.
Oh, really?
You want to play with it? Yeah.
Let me just I wasn't looking at the options on it.
190 vol at the money for overnight ETH options.
Oh my! Well, now I'm getting interested.
Yeah, it's quite some uncertainty there.
Yeah, there is. Well, I want to let it play out. I'm not going to jump in thinking it's going to do one thing or another. I want to just kind of take it easy and just I'll make trades as they present themselves. Okay. Why don't you go ahead, if you don't mind, and there's some comments coming up that I'll address later on towards the end regarding this ETH thing, because I think some of our members probably have some pretty good insight into it. But why don't we go ahead, if you don't mind sharing your actually, here, I'll go here. If you don't mind sharing your screen, we can look at the synth miner account. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about how
can you pull your share then, so just so we don't.
Oh yeah, so we don't cross streams.
Never cross the streams.
Never cross the stream.
Okay, synth miner.
Whatever happened to that guy who wrote the song from Ghostbusters and got sued by Huey Lewis or whatever for copying?
Yeah.
I never heard of him again.
I imagine they settled. Or killed him, I don't know.
All right.
So in terms of numbers, we're down 2 bips from today, but that's because vols have risen. I think devols crashed yesterday. Implied vols crashed on Bitcoin yesterday, but then just come back a little bit today, just in sympathy with Ethereum. I think we're running 70 vol overnight at the money. So we're short the 72k calls on Bitcoin. expiring tomorrow, so there's quite a bit of premium there. Actually, there's a lot of premium there for us to take, assuming it doesn't go blasting up. And then on the 25th, we're short the puts. So these two calls are part of our recovery plan to recover all the money we lost by selling 500 calls when we were down at 58k. Which seems like a laugh now, doesn't it? It's like ridiculous. Why would you imagine that Bitcoin wouldn't recover? Suddenly. But such is the power of fear. So what we'll do is, as these guys expire, we'll rewrite them either a day or a week out. We'll see what the vols do.
And we had our short puts bought back on that day as well, on the 24th.
Yes, so we oh, is that? Are we actually? Do we owe the market? So we've got one.
I think we actually were talking about initiating a new position yesterday.
Yeah, I think we don't actually need to put any more positions on. I think if this goes out worthless, and Saturday's puts go out worthless, we probably actually should leave sleeping dogs lie, and then just look to reposition the risk we've got currently. Down here at 7th of June, we've got 110 bips here at 64k. I mean, that's slightly under our target. It's not bad. Probably just leave the whole damn thing alone, actually. I mean, maybe those 31st of Mays could be moved up a little bit. We could try and steal a bit more premium there. But I wouldn't want to do it until
until we have to, yeah.
Until these other ones have gone out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think there is the danger too that maybe ETH is going to explode over the next 2 days, and we are going to hit all-time highs in Bitcoin. Who knows? But I'm feeling a little bit better. We've lightened the load.
What normally, I mean, my feeling is what normally happens is that there'll be a capitulation immediately after the announcement, and then it'll dump. Right? That's normally the way things go. And I've got a tiny book that's positioned for that. So I'll let you know next week how that went. But
okay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with things, and actually, I kind of feel that we should probably be leaving alone. So, just so everyone knows, on this synth miner account, we're mostly selling puts, and we're mostly doing it as a spread. There's times when we're going to sell calls. Sometimes it's a mistake, and sometimes it's not. But it's going to depend on the price action. If we get strong down moves, we want to kind of roll those down. Sometimes we might want to let them go in the money and then roll them in the money. But we don't need to get into that strategy right now. And there's going to be times when you have a strong market action one direction, our delta is getting out of whack. We might want to roll those puts into a strangle, where it gets some short calls on there to balance things out temporarily, or to bring in some extra premium, or different reasons. So we're not blindly, I guess I'm trying to say, we're not blindly just selling puts or selling put spreads no matter what. We have to massage it. There's some nuance in there for us. You could do that. You could do that, but we choose not to. That's our primary strategy because we want to keep Bitcoin.
And actually, case in point, given that your view is that we're going to get a pullback before we start marching on again in Bitcoin, we'd be dumb just to be writing close to the money short-dated puts expecting a pullback, right? I mean, we're short the 25th of May here for a specific reason. That's because we've got two expiries tomorrow. One is Deribit, one is CME. These are the two most important expiries, and immediately after the CME expiry, we would expect vols to drop sufficiently that actually we could probably get this position back anyway at a profit.
Yeah.
So then we'll be clear for the entire weekend, and we'd be clear out then to 31st of May, where we're actually short at 63k, which feels pretty safe, and we're willing to. We could weather a 10% pullback quite easily. With those positions, and in fact, if we get a 10% pullback, we'd probably be selling puts like there's no tomorrow, right?
Yeah, and normally
unless it was accompanied by an announcement that Gensler is going to, hunt down and kill every Bitcoin owner or something,
Yeah. So, and some of you might be wondering why we have positions 24th, 25th, the 31st, which is the next weekly expiry, and the 7th, which is the weekly expiry after that. We're not normally going out that deep. There's two things I want to cover here. That was me taking some action as that move was happening, as we got some of those short calls, which are part of our recovery program, we're starting to get at the money. I decided to move them around. Now, some I don't like to move out in time unless I absolutely have to. I want to try and still realize all that intrinsic value on the same expiry as it's being threatened. Now, it's not always possible. So, for instance, when the price was moving up, to 70, 71, et cetera, maybe we had some 70 calls short or 69 or 72, whatever we had. I can easily roll up, but you're not going to get all the value because it's further from the money. But if I turn that into a strangle and I decide to sell puts at the same time, at that moment, the skew is completely on the call side. I'm not going to get any value for it. Would it have, we're at 70. Would it have been unrealistic to think we quickly move back to 68? Could do that in a heartbeat. I didn't feel comfortable with that. Our strategy here is also selling puts. So I thought, you know what? I'll move some of these calls up, at least, get half of that value in. So we're not delaying all that intrinsic value coming in, and I'll throw some on the put side. But in order to get the value on the put side, I had to go a little bit further out in time, and that would be the 31st, and in some cases June 7th. And I only just picked at it as I felt I needed to, because I didn't know. Maybe this thing would be at 76,000. Who knows, right? We just don't know. And then I'd have some deep in the money calls, which I'd have to move way in the future or roll in the money, hoping that the market would eventually close that gap with our roll. So that's why we have that there, in case anyone wants to know. Richard, the one thing I did want you to touch on, though, is we have a minimum baseline. We want to make 10 basis points a day. Can you just take people through how kind of we're figuring that each day?
You mean why 10 basis points, or how we
well, it just so people can calculate, like they say, well, hang on, how do I, because most people think, oh, I want to make $500 a month or 10,000 a month, or they've got this number in their head, but
so first of all, the reason I said 10 basis points a day is if you compound 10 basis points per day and you compound it over 365 days, then that gives you roughly 50% a year return. And so if we can increase our Bitcoin by 50% a year, then in 10 years we'll own the universe, right? So so then how do we calculate it? Well, on Deribit it's extremely easy because the prices are being listed in terms of Bitcoin. So here on the here's the 64K 7th of June put. The price here is literally listed in basis points. If you ignore the decimal point, that price, that mark price, is 111 basis points, i.e. 1.11% of a Bitcoin for a 1 Bitcoin notional contract. Now our account size is 0.1 Bitcoins. So we simply sell 0.1 Bitcoins times 111 basis points, or in this case 105 basis points. And we've taken in cash equal to 100 basis points of our notional. So it's extremely easy to compute, as long as we keep our trade size roughly equal to our account equity in Bitcoin. Now you'll notice that this account on the 7th of June has 15 days to run, and the price is not 150 basis points, it's 110. So by our reckoning, that's a little bit cheaper than we'd like to sell at. But of course, we sold those when the market was lower. So at the time, we reckoned we'd sold those and bought the cover, and the net price was 140 or 200 basis points, or whatever the number is. Now this doesn't always work out perfectly, because we start out with a perfect book, and I think we started out by writing 3 lots, didn't we? So we did 0.1 of a 7-day put spread, 0.1 of a 14-day put spread, and I think we legged in then with 0.1 of a 21-day put spread, which we probably don't even need to do, to be honest. And I say, so that's now, here's our closest one to run. This one is currently 46 basis points, minus 8 for the cover. So that's 38 basis points net value. But it's just expiring over just under 2 days. So actually that's pulling in 20 basis points a day. Yeah. So from our point of view, in our calculus, this 2-day position at 67,500 is actually worth the same to us as this 7th of June position in size 2. And so, and there's a mental calculus now we do is, okay, should we sell 2 of something a bit further away and pull in the 10 basis points net, or should we do one of the thing closer? And how do we come to that decision? At the moment, we're happy to be selling very close to the expiry because the vols over expiry are very high. We've got expiry tomorrow morning and on CME, which elevates vols, and we've got the whole Ethereum thing, which is elevating vols in Ethereum, which is bleeding off into Bitcoin. And so we're quite happy to stay selling short vol close to expiry right now, and then we'll expect tomorrow the price of this will be collapsed to probably zero. Actually, I mean tomorrow, 67,500, 24 hours from now, if nothing changes, would be I know, but it's a higher vol, isn't it? 78 vol versus 59. Actually, well, I would think let's go with theta then. Theta's 216. So yeah, this price is going to be like at best 10 basis points tomorrow after expiry at 11 o'clock. At which point we'll just buy it back and we're done with it. In fact, we're supposed to have an order in. I'll stick the order in here. We just stick a reduced order in 7 basis points.
And again, it's not a perfect calculation. We're just kind of saying, okay, roughly, let's earn that as a minimum. Most of the time we end up running a little bit hotter. We end up being closer to 15, 20, or 30. And, that's going to ebb and flow. But if we keep that baseline 10, it keeps our margin low for the size of the account. And it always ensures that we're always increasing our Bitcoin, So it's a nice strategy. It's an easy strategy to follow.
On the subject of margin, our margin use is actually higher than we'd like for this account. We'd like it under 20. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is that very, very close to the money positions tend to consume more margin because smaller moves in the underlying will cause bigger PV differences. So they've got more gamma. And also the calls and the puts are not on the same strike, and the margin engine likes them to be on the same expiry. So these are mismatched right now.
You could have summarized that and said we have a margin problem because I created the margin problem.
That's absolutely true. I willfully did this. we did have some puts on the 24th of May, but we bought them back because they got super cheap. And then we rewrote them on the 25th of May because we wanted to take advantage of that short-term vol while we had it.
And that was a result of having to adjust positions when those short calls were put under pressure. And that happens. That's a short-term thing. You suck them all in, you reorganize. We get back to the business of selling puts where it makes sense and selling calls where it makes sense. So it's... But the most important thing, and I kind of reiterate this every week, but I'll do it again, is that we're currently short 0.5 Bitcoins of notional on the puts and 0.2 on the calls. Normally, we wouldn't want to be any more than short 0.3 Bitcoins of notional on the puts because the account is 0.1. And really, if vols were a bit higher, we probably wouldn't even do 3 contracts. We'd probably just do 2. Because it's just so much easier to manage. These are temporary measures when we make adjustments and we bring it back in. You can see how if you have a $1 million account, for example, you could run really, really low risk or low margin use and actually make some pretty steady money with very limited, very low risk. But this isn't $1 million account. All right, let's. If you have any final thoughts on that, Richard, can I jump over to questions?
Nope. Please do, because we're running out of time.
We're out of time. All right. Vladimir, ETH, not like Bitcoin, will be similar as stock, which is actually paying out dividends because of ETH stacking. Okay. Tim, will this be recorded? Yes, it will. Core, great move on ETH. Happy to have me long. Good. Long-term positions have been in place before the ETH move. Fantastic, man. Good to hear that. Okay. Oh, Anna Marie, thank you for answering that question earlier. Vladimir, also ETH is actually deflation coin, not like Bitcoin again. Okay. Yes, I can see that. ETH has been underperforming for a long time. I agree, Core. I agree. It has been sucking, and that's why we stopped trading it last year. Let's see. We've got some Q&A questions here. Vladimir again. Would be nice to watch how you manage this account in case we are heavily dropping down, because obviously in a bull run, you'll only be profit with this strategy. Yes, that's true. And that's how we got into a little bit of, we talked about what we did, some actions we took when it looked like it was really going to have the bottom fall out of it. And it hosed us a little bit. So we had a 5-week plan to make that back, and we're almost back.
Yeah, so the lesson so far is don't try and hedge the downside. Just let it go.
Just roll the damn puts. There was, okay. Well, hindsight's 2020, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's.
But obviously, we're running this Bitcoin mining account because we believe that the general trend of Bitcoin is up.
Yes.
Right? So if we were thinking that the general trend was down, then we would be running a cash mining account, and we'd be doing it different. Yeah. But we like this strategy is interesting to do because normally the skew is towards the calls, and so all the value is in the calls, and all our backtest tells us if you're going to sell anything, sell calls. However, what's interesting to demonstrate is that there's actually some value as long as you're risk managing nicely in calls, in puts rather, and they're very. If you look at the difference between the amount of calls and puts in open interest on Deribit, you'll notice that calls are like 3 or 4 times as many. So we're fishing in areas that are sort of less fished.
Yeah, and I will mention, Vladimir, you of course can watch us manage that on Patreon, Rogue Trader Academy, or join the Rogue Trader Academy, roguetrader.academy, and you can join. And we do live streams every day. We trade this account, and we have other accounts with different strategies that we run as well. So feel free to join us there. A question from Peter: with ETH short-term vol at 200, what would be an aggressive but still sustainable strategy for the next days?
Well, obviously, selling overnight strangles would be a great way to capture that value. But you maybe want to be ready to hedge. You
definitely want to be ready to hedge. This is not financial advice, just so we're very, very clear. But yeah, I mean, how else the only way you can capture is to sell it. But yeah, you might want to hedge off there. Question from Core: I think it's a bit too soon for ETH vol at 200. We're attempting to a second half of the bull cycle. You could be right. I don't trust anything I see right now, and I just have been kind of out of the ETH game for 6 months, and it's going to take some work to pull me back in. It's going to take.
I hate trading. I mean, I've done a lot of work on ETH as well as Bitcoin, and I hate trading it. And I can never get as much value out of ETH as I can from Bitcoin. It's just so lumpy, and
I think a lot of people get attracted to ETH because they think of ETH and Bitcoin as the same. Deribit has great liquidity for both those assets, and they think, oh, it's cheaper. I've got a small account. That's the wrong way to think about it, and I think a lot of people fall into that trap. That's my opinion. Richard, any final thoughts? I think that's the last. And if there's any last questions, please let us know. We're just slightly over time, so good timing today. Any last questions? Please put them into the Q&A section.
I've got to be honest, but 200 vol. If you're selling 200 vol and you hedge it dynamically, I say hourly, flatten your delta hourly, I think you should make money. I can't imagine seeing realized vol of 200 over a period of time. That's 200 vol realized is immense moves continuously, And
it's not going to last. All you need to do, the trick is when you're selling that high vol is just weather the storm. And if that storm is for 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 weeks, it's going to end probably less than 2 weeks.
Then you crawl it all back, in the flat times.
Ends up becoming a margin game, So if you've got the available margin, you can weather that. You can roll. You can do whatever you need to do, but it'll eventually all get sucked back in.
Keep your trade sizes small, like we're doing on the synth miner account, and you can always recover. You'll never get wiped out, and you'll always be able to make a profit eventually.
Yep. Good advice. Fantastic. Any last thoughts, Richard? Or was that it?
That was my last thought.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, hey, everyone, thanks for joining us. Fantastic. Good questions. What an interesting week. Let's see what happens with ETH tonight, tomorrow, and where we're going to be at next Thursday. So until next Thursday, we'll see you then.